This week we are honored to have with us a gentleman who has had an impact and a positive impact not only on the capital region of New York State but the entire world. We have with us Mr. Lorenzo Hodges, who is the founder of Jezreel International, an organization engaged in humanitarian aid all around the world. It's nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Joe. It's nice to be here.
How did Jezreel International come to be? What inspired you to form your organization?
Well, how it ended up happening, there's a guy, Barry Feynman, who's actually the founder of it. I had another organization about 7 years ago, and they used to let me house everything in their warehouse.
Okay.
The last 2 years ago, he seen what I was doing. I was doing work all over the world, in Africa, $8 million of medicine to Ghana and different things. So they actually hired me as a director to help run Jezreel. So that's how I got involved with them.
Now, Jezreel International is very personal to you. You have a history going from your organization to Jezreel International. Talk about that a little.
Well, like I said, when I started doing humanitarian work, I had nowhere to house anything. So when I came to Barry Feynman and told him my idea, and I really didn't have any funding or anything, he says, sure, you can use part of our warehouse to start doing your missions. So that's really how I got started. And I mean, that was, without the warehouse, I don't even know how I could have even started doing these missions. So that was really such a positive thing.
What inspired you to start your mission?
Well, I want to say 7 years ago, it was my first trip to Africa, and I went to Uganda, and then we went into the Congo. We were just going there, looking at the land. I was almost like a tourist going into Africa. We witnessed my last 3 days coming out of the Congo. People ride, like if you have tractor trailers here, they ride on top of them as ways of transportation. Well, it's very dangerous. Well, the one day, maybe a half hour from the border, this tractor trailer flipped over. There was 8 people that got hurt. We took 3 people and put them in our car and drove them to this, it looked like at the Uganda and the Congo border, a beautiful building. They said it was a hospital. We couldn't go in as Americans, so they brought the people in that we brought, and they brought the other 5 in. And when they came out, they had taken my camera in with them. They took pictures of this here, and I didn't know what they were doing. So when they came out, and they says, Lorenzo, if that was you or me or any other Americans that were with us, they would have flown you to a private hospital to get you help. The thing is, these people didn't have any money, so this was just a building with no medicine, nothing in it, and they were praying for 5 out of the 8 people to die so they didn't suffer. It was just beds in there.
Now, your organization is a member of TechMD. What is that?
TechMD is an organization that tries to connect you with other organizations to get aid. That's what they do. There are other organizations just like we are, and we're trying to reach out and work with other people to get more aid.
Now, you've shipped medical, hospital supplies, food, clothing, baby products, toys, all over the world. How have you been able, especially in today's economy, to do that?
Well, what happens, if we can get a company, and a lot of these companies have so much, I want to say, overrides. And what happens today, in the new tax law and everything else, if you donate funds, we can give you 150% write-off. So what's happening?
By funds, you mean cash?
Yes.
Okay.
Merchandise is 150% too. So what happens when these companies have overrides like this, and they just have nothing else they can do, or product's not selling, the product's still good, it's brand new, but it's just not selling, they can donate to us, they're getting their full value back, we're giving them the write-off, we don't sell anything, and we use this to help the poor and needy.
Now, my understanding of current tax law, unless it's changed, is that if you donate your company's services to a not-for-profit organization, you're not able to write that off?
The services you're not able to write off, no. But, like I said, when you donate, we get people that do volunteer. We're always looking for more volunteers. this actually, you know, you're just doing a good thing because you're helping the poor and needy.
You were talking about some toy drives that you've had during the holiday season, which have benefited these cities as well.
What we normally do is we try to do, the last 3 years we started doing big toy giveaways. Last year I think it was $280,000 worth of toys. The year before that was $400,000. And what we do with these toys, we don't limit where they go. I mean, I remember people came down from the Children's Hospital in Syracuse,
right,
the pediatric ward, Buffalo, and what they'll do, they'll come with a car or they'll come with a truck. There's that many toys, and we just donate. Everything is strictly donated. We do a lot here in the Capital District. There's stuff that's went all the way down toward White Plains. You know, it's just all over. All over.
Now, how do people find out about Jezreel International and come to you?
Well, they can either go to the website, JezreelInternational.org, or they can just call us, you know, at 518-438-4370, and just ask for me.
But also I was thinking of people that all of a sudden give you a phone call someday and they come out of nowhere and say, hey, we could use your services. How do they suddenly find out about you?
Well, normally what they do, if they call and they need our services, we can sit down and they'll call me. I'll set up an appointment. We can talk on, you know, on what they need, what their needs are, or if they're looking to ship international, because we've done it so much and quite a bit. I can actually show them different ways and the easiest ways to ship international, and to make sure they have somebody on the ground so it gets distributed to the right people.
Speaking of international, right now we have quite a crisis in Kenya and East Africa. Are you able to help the people out there right now?
Right now in Kenya and East Africa, I'm connected with some other big organizations that is bringing aid in there. You know, we do a lot of aid, but we can't compare to what they're getting ready to bring in there. So it's like you're connected to the people who can bring so much more than you can. So basically, as you're talking to them, it's better that you stay out of the way, you know, because like say I would want to ship a container. Well, there's a couple organizations that I deal with in Midwest and down South that are going to bring 150 containers. So.
And what's in your containers?
It can be a variety of things. It depends on what the need is in the country. We do a lot of medical. You know, you have clinics all over the world, Argentina, Russia, Africa, Israel, that just don't have anything in their clinics. So what we try to do is send a lot of walkers, wheelchair, a lot of your basic things, needles, gauze, that they just don't have to work with. So that's what we put in a lot of our containers. But it depends on the needs. You know, we did a project right now we're working on in Liberia, the orphans. Well, there's 100,000 pair of sneakers going to be over there August 2nd.
Wow.
And you know, when you think of sneakers, you don't really think as being a necessity, but if you don't have a shoe, you get athlete's feet, you can get gangrene and lose your leg. So that's going to be a big necessity for the kids there.
Now, not only have you done things in New York State and around the world, you also were a big help here in the United States, going down the Mississippi to New Orleans with Katrina, and you're still helping folks there, right?
Yes. Well, we sent, I forget how many containers, but it was a lot of containers that we sent down to New Orleans to help them.
Now, what sort of an impact did you have on New Orleans? How were you specifically able to help people?
Well, between food and water and clothes, I know we had a huge impact. You know, it probably could have been an impact reaching thousands and thousands of people who had nothing. And we were filling containers sending down to New Orleans.
Now, my understanding of these containers, not only do they contain goods, but a lot of times a container is a portable office, and as soon as it arrives at a location that needs your assistance, you set up a functioning office? Well,
the last container we did like that was with Haiti. We were working with Pastor Charlie from Victory Church.
Victory Church being in Albany, New York.
Yes, and what that container consisted of, he wanted to do a container. It was a very unusual container because it had to be rebuilt and designed inside. He wanted to have this container so it could also be a functional business. Where he's at in the coast of Haiti, there's about 80 orphanages. So what we put in that container was motorcycles, we put boats, a lot of fishing equipment, lobster traps, generators for ice, a cafe set up for the computers. So what's going to happen with the motorcycles, they're going to use them as cabs, okay? The fishing equipment, they're going to use right there to fish in the ocean, to feed the orphans, but also sell fish to provide incomes for the people.
Now, with today's economy, you must find, and today's economy is both tough locally, nationally, and internationally. Are you finding more of a demand for your services and less donations coming in?
Well, our financial donations have went down, but God's always making a way. They have went down a little bit, but we're still moving on. So people are still interested in what you're doing. People, no matter how the economy seems, people are still interested in helping because here in the United States, there's so many people so much better off than in third world countries.
Right.
And it's been like that.
Now, you've been able to help battered women, addicts, veterans. How do these folks get your help, and how do you find out about them?
Well, normally I get calls, all right, even like the battered women's shelter. We did a thing about a year and a half ago. A good friend of mine's a supervisor at National Grid. We don't realize the little things can go so far. Well, what he did a huge cell phone collection. This cell phone collection, he probably ended up getting 7,000 to 8,000 cell phones. We put these in a different battered women's shelter, and I didn't realize what an impact those cell phones would have. The veterans, we ended up getting these beautiful Mercedes Polo shirts. So one of the pastors that works up there with vets, I mean, these shirts went so far, shirts and pants, just stuff these guys needed, basics that they didn't have. Books, new books. So that's how we've been able to impact the different veterans. For somebody to come out and give them a gift, a lot of these guys feel like they're forgotten about, and that just, it puts, joy in their heart. It put a smile on their face for the day because somebody didn't forget them.
Now, what are the big projects that Jezreel International are working on right now that you're so proud of?
Right now, one of the projects we're working on is the Liberian projects, which is going to touch maybe 50, 60, 70,000 orphans.
What is the Liberian project?
That's consistent of sneakers and clothes and just so many other different things. That should hopefully be complete by about the 7th of August. We're looking at doing other projects in Israel. There's kids in Israel, people don't realize it, that are traumatized from the war. We're looking at trying to get them sneakers. There's a man over in Israel, I forget his name, but he has a stuffed animal project, okay? And to us, stuffed animals don't seem like much, but some of these kids that are traumatized from the war, he gives them a stuffed animal and it's just like a new child again,
Now, you mentioned the Liberia project. Probably every nation in the world has people who are needy and could appreciate your assistance. How do you make a decision like, I'm going to help Liberia, I'm going to help Israel, I'm going to help Haiti? How do you make that decision?
How we usually make a decision like that is we have to get support for that country. If somebody comes to me and says, look, I'm looking to go to help the Christians or the kids in Iraq, okay? Right. I would sit down with them and tell them, look, we need this. This is how much funding this project is going to cost. And then the main thing I always like to find, who do you have on the ground over there? We never like to send aid and there's nobody there. That's foolish. So then we put this together and we're talking, then I make contact with whoever's on the ground and we get pictures and we start looking at this so that you're not putting a project together that's just going out in the pie in the sky. And that's where, no country's limited where we would work at. So that's how these projects, a pastor out of Detroit, he's got a pretty big church. I met with him. He started putting this Liberia project together. And that's how, even like Ghana, 2008 did $8 million in medicine. There was a professor here at SUNY. Okay, I met with him. He's a longtime resident of Ghana and the United States. He was connected with the government in Kumasi region, and that's how that project came together. Tanzania, Mr. Nrope, his kids go to school here. He was a member of parliament in Tanzania. So now I had a base, you had bases, you had buildings, you had clinics, and he would oversee this, where everything went and how it was distributed.
Do you ever run into a situation where you send goods and services to a particular country, and when the goods and services arrive there, you start to have problems with the people in power or the governments in power, and they're not as receptive to your donations as you had hoped?
Not yet, thank God.
We've heard of that happening, though.
I've heard of it many, many times, but I haven't had it happen yet. If anything, when I went into these countries, it ended up being a lot bigger than I ever planned it to be.